Hey everybody, my name's Josh Campa. I'm your 2024 LVR President-elect. I'm super excited to be here today to talk about leadership with Danielle Gallant, who is our Assemblywoman for District 23 here in Nevada. Danielle not only serves as an Assemblywoman, she serves as your Political Affairs Chair and numerous other committees here at Las Vegas Realtors. Danielle, how you doing today?
I'm good, Josh. How are you?
Good. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be fun today.
I think we're going to have some fun too.
Yeah, that's the point.
So leadership. So leadership comes in all different facets, right? I mean, there's leadership of your family, in your household, in your business, leadership in your community. You know, you've taken on this exciting role as an Assemblywoman in District 23. I have the honor of serving you guys as President-elect of Las Vegas Realtors. And so I kind of want to just start talking about really what inspired us to move into these positions and really give back to our community and our industry. So, you know, for me, property management was really the foundation of my business and getting involved and whatnot. And so I've been in the industry for over 10 years. I know you've been in the industry for quite some time as well. And I really just saw a need for property management to be represented at our association. And so I got involved in committees at a very lower level, right? Mm-hmm. Property Management Committee, you remember it back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one organization that kind of really catapulted, I feel like the both of us was NARPM, right?
Yes.
The National Association of Residential Property Managers. I had the honor of serving as president, and you tell the story really well about serving as legislative chair, right?
The phone call?
The phone call. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it was during COVID, right?
It was. So it was during COVID, and we're in an eviction moratorium.
In an eviction moratorium, yep.
We're about, 4 months into it,
yeah.
And there's no end in sight.
No.
And I'd been home with my 2 kids trying to manage the eviction moratorium, my owners being concerned about how they're going to pay their mortgage, how they're going to pay for a replacement of an AC. And I get this call from this nice young man with so many titles, it took him 3 minutes to get through it. And then I finally said, "I'm sorry, who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Josh Campa." And I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "I'm the president of NARPM. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in being our legislative chair." And I thought, huh? And then I asked you, "What does that entail?" And you said, "Well, I don't know. I kind of created the position for you, so I hope you say yes." Well, how do you turn down an offer like that?
Right.
And then we realized there was this hole, right? That this need for people to be educated and to be able to come together and collaborate how to deal with these never ending moratoriums that were coming down.
Yeah.
And it was hard to navigate and figure out what was up and what was down. So we spent a lot of time studying them. And then we did these webinars. And first it was like 50 people, and then it was 100 people, and then it was 200 people. And then people were just begging for it because they needed help and there wasn't any guidance anywhere.
100%.
So that's kind of our start.
Yeah,
and it was a whirlwind.
Really out of a need, right?
Yeah.
From people in our industry who wanted information, who were yearning for that type of education. And it was really not only fulfilling, but I learned so much in the process from you, from being exposed to so many things that we hadn't before. So that was part of, my journey for sure, and definitely yours. And the next part of it for me was really getting more involved in our association and really trying to bring a lot of those resources here. But one thing I heard from our membership was just that they wanted more transparency. They wanted communication from leadership at the top. They wanted more robust communication when it came to social media, when it came to events, and when it came to things like that. And so the results of it were really cool because our committees,
the participation has just been astronomical.
It's been so cool to see the growth from 2020, 2021 till today. I mean, we have, we just had Trends Committee, which had nearly 300 people there.
Wow.
Which is really, really exciting to see that engagement, that excitement, that passion. Our social media here at the association has leveled up in so many ways. I mean, even just doing podcasts and stuff like this.
But it's scary for a lot of people.
It is.
Change is scary.
It is.
And like in the political world, there's not been a lot of emphasis on social media and particularly video.
Right. And you've done a really great job of just getting messaging out about things that the average voter just doesn't know, and just tiny little pieces about the process opens people's eyes, because a lot of times without giving those little details, people kind of craft their own narratives, right?
And they don't know where to look either, right? Like my videos are more as a touch, right? Check this out, do a deeper dive,
right?
Find your own research on this, take ownership and control over it. And listen, it's been an awesome ride, but it comes with its learning bumps along the way, right? So sometimes you might say something that is a little off or wasn't said the right way, but you have to keep practicing and you have to keep forging forward,
right? Because
that is the future. It's all digital these days.
Yeah, everything's digital.
Yeah.
100%. So tell me a little bit about your journey, getting inspired to run for assembly. What kind of made you take that leap, made you take that jump?
Prior to COVID, I had been asked every year for the previous 5 years to run, and I kept saying no.
Right.
And then with COVID, I'm thinking there's nobody really up in Carson City that's actively a property manager,
right? And
actively participates in their own evictions and sees how the judges are ruling or how the legislation is playing out in the courts. And so that was December of 2020 where I got a call saying that Glenn Levitt wasn't going to be running and that the seat was open.
Yeah.
And so I talked to my husband that night and we both decided that was going to be the best way that I could advocate for our owners. Like I had a fiduciary and an ethical duty, as you know, to protect our owners and even provide like a really good environment for tenants and owners alike.
Right.
And rents are astronomical. It's the eviction moratorium. It's 18 months of nobody paying rent. It's the thousands of dollars of water bills that my owners got stuck with. It's the 8% property tax that has finally hit. I mean, you keep adding all these regulations and these added costs, it's going to increase the rent. There's no way of getting around
100%.
that. So that's why I decided to run. And it was, I think it was good that I was there. There was a lot of things, even though those bills didn't pass, there were a lot of amendments that I was able to get into them because those bills will repeat.
Right.
And now because I've dipped that toe in, because they've agreed to this before, it's easier to get them to agree to it again when they bring those bills back.
Yeah. One thing in leadership that I've found to be just a challenge is really just kind of challenging the status quo, right? Making changes. And I think you've kind of said it, right? It's not easy when something's been done a certain way for so long. It's scary. People feel itchy, kind of wanting to make changes to something that they've grown accustomed to. And it's not because it's the best way.
Right.
It might not even be the right way, but they're just comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
And so I know for you in assembly, you've really taken on I feel like a different approach than most people. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about like the journey, the tactic, your wins, your fails, when it kind of comes to that, and what you've experienced along the way, challenging the status quo.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not your typical politician. I'm very A-type and I want to just get the job done.
Yeah. Well, you're a business owner. I mean, you kind of have that mindset.
I'm very straightforward. I would tell the lobbyists like, nope, I'm a no on this one. Or I'm a yes on this one. Or I could be a yes if you do A, B, or C. Okay. And at first they didn't know how to take it.
Right.
Because a lot of people just like, they talk in riddles all the time.
Yeah.
Because they might not want to hurt somebody's feelings or they think this is a good negotiation tactic or everybody has their own reason. But this, for me, it's not a game.
Right.
We are making decisions that affect Nevadans' everyday lives. And I want to make sure that we do it right.
one thing I try to do with people is if I see an issue festering or starting, I address it as soon as I can with that person head on. Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation about it. Yeah. Because otherwise it's going to pile up into all of these other little issues. And now you don't even remember what the initial issue was, to be honest.
I try to do my best to say, hey, do we have a problem? How do we fix this? How do we move forward? I think one of the things is I'm finding is that people are less and less inclined to do that. I think as we move towards being keyboard warriors and forget what it's like to communicate.
Actually communicate, right?
And have like the water cooler talk, right?
Water cooler talk.
We're losing that art. And so I think it makes it harder for people to do that, which means that we just have to try harder.
We do. We have to make that
perfect,
effort. Yeah.
Right? I'm going to screw up. You're going to screw up.
God knows. Yes.
I mean, everybody's going to screw up. And I think we need to start having more grace.
Right.
And forgiveness around that and giving people opportunities to be like, oops, I messed up. My apologies. Let's move forward.
You know, somebody asked me the other day, what does compromise mean to you? And
you must have been talking to my husband.
I must have. But I thought about it for a minute. And you know, for me, when I come into a leadership role, whether that be in my business or here at the association or anywhere else, I like to understand my team, right?
Yeah.
And I want to understand what everybody's goals are, whether it be on, you know, a certain initiative or just in general, because I think we can all win. Sometimes not right away. It's going to take a little while, right? But if we all understand the road that we want to go on, then we can all help each other get there together.
Yeah.
And a lot of times finding people who are team players is really challenging, or sometimes just being in that mindset where you are in life can be a little bit difficult. How's that kind of worked for you in assembly and working with compromise? I know that that's something that you absolutely deal with regularly, but talk about that process a little bit.
Everybody wants to lead.
Yeah.
I had a lobbyist, I had coffee with him a while ago, and he goes, if there is a legislator that tells you that they haven't thought about governor, they're lying, right? So at some point, everybody has some dream, whether it's an actual reality or it's just like a far off, distant wish. At any given point, everybody wants to lead, and it's difficult for a lot of people to follow, particularly in politics, because anybody that goes into politics has a certain amount of like leadership skills instilled in them. And I think one of the things that is important, and it's a challenge, like, listen, I haven't mastered it, I'm still working on it, is to find the things that your team can individually lead on so that collectively you're all accomplishing your goal.
Yeah.
And so that's been a challenge for me, because I've just been running my own business and I just get to make the decisions, right? Like I don't have to do it via committee.
Right. You don't have to ask somebody for permission.
Correct.
You just, you make the decision that you feel is best and you move forward. But now you got to approach it from a different perspective.
Yes, you do. And so there's a certain amount of like, okay, we're going to give this group this responsibility,
right,
and it might move slower. It might not be exactly the way you would have done it.
Yeah.
But there's several pathways to a final goal.
I know for me, I can be a perfectionist sometimes, and I know it's shocking. I like things done a certain way, and it makes me happy. But and in my business, in a lot of ways, I've always struggled with that. But coming into leadership here at LVR, I mean, we have a board of 16. We've got 9 open committees. We have at least 10 or 15 closed committees that do different things. And so you have all these little bodies that are working on different projects and things like that. And so it's impossible to have, your hand in all of them, or to be able to oversee all of them. So having that trust that you put people in positions, or you trust somebody who's in a position to carry out the vision that you initially started with is something that I've had to adjust to. It's been different. It almost feels like I said earlier, a little itchy, a little like, okay, that's a little, uncomfortable, but
It is. And then on top of that, once you start outsourcing, you're still up at the top. So when somebody screws up, you're the one that gets blamed for it.
Yeah.
And so then there's this art of how you correct the problem. You don't throw your people under the bus.
Right.
But at the same time, you teach that person that brought this to you, right? Like, this is the organizational structure. I'm on top of it. Let me handle it now. But without it villainizing you. Right. And so that is a whole other skill set that is a challenge as well.
Yeah, no, that is a really great point. And that's something, as a business owner, the buck always stops with you. And so that mindset coming into, association leadership for me was something that carried over for sure.
Yeah.
But with so many more people involved, it becomes a little bit challenging. And then when you have, people who are maybe adversarial, who don't agree with you, who don't stand on the same issues where you stand, they can villainize and weaponize so many things, so many decisions, so many, if there's a mistake that happens, and mistakes will happen all the time. They're going to happen.
It's life.
But showing that grace to people, grace to leadership, and being able to communicate with one another, I think is so important. Sometimes as a leader, there's a right decision and a wrong decision. And no matter which you choose, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
But going down the right path is obviously, it's always the best way, and often it's the more difficult way. But it's the path that at the end of the day will lead you to a place of positive growth and advancement. And I think those two things are so important for an organization.
There's an economist named Schumpeter, and I'm not an economist or an expert in any way, shape, or form. But one of the things I loved about him is that he really believed in order for growth to occur, destruction had to happen as well. So there had to be a breakdown before you could meet those growth levels.
Yeah.
And so I always think about wildfires, that's a kind of a natural, it's awful. You hope it happens out where there's no homes and nobody's there, but that forest needs that, rejuvenation, so to speak. And I think sometimes organizations have to go through some struggles in order to have some growth. It's not fun going through it, but sometimes it's just a necessary evil. I think some people, after possibly seeing this, are thinking oh, I never want to be in leadership, right? So you got to thank the people that have chosen to stand up and take these roles.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads me into the next thing I want to talk about, which is truly the unnoticed heroes that don't get recognized, and that's really our families. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know you're a mom with 2 kids. I'm a dad, 2 kids, with a beautiful wife, and my kids truly they support me 1,000,000%. The hugs and the love that I get from them are what keep me going. The sacrifices that they make when I'm not home, whether it's because I'm traveling or whether it's because I'm in board meetings or whether it's because I'm at events, is so great. And I don't take that for granted one day.
Yeah.
And as a leader, it could be hard sometimes to balance that. It's something I know for me that if my family life is off balance, then everything's off balance.
Yes.
And so making that your number one priority, I think is, I know for me, so important. But talk to me a little bit about for you, because you're in Carson City for a good chunk of the year during legislative years.
Yes.
And what does that look like for you, and how difficult can that be?
So, this was my first sessions, and it was hard on everyone, but I am so lucky to have a husband that does not shy away from work.
Yeah.
The more, the better. The cooking, the getting the kids ready. I never heard a complaint from him.
Yeah.
The complaint was, we missed you. I want you here.
Yeah.
Okay. And the kids were great. My oldest, Xander, he took it in stride. He understood that there was an end and that this was not going to be like this forever.
Right.
The little one, Maddox, he was so brave and so strong during those 4 months.
Right.
But when I got back, we could see, like, I mean, he was like Velcro on me. And at one point, maybe a couple months down the road, like I had to go to Carson just for the day. And he was like, "You're going to Carson?" I'm like, "Don't worry, buddy. I'm coming back tonight." Okay.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
Okay. So they've been super supportive. I was surprised. I kind of expected when I got back that they were going to be like, "Hey, we don't want you to do this again." And instead it was, "Are you going to rerun?" And I said, "I thought about it. What do you think?" And they were like, "Yeah, that's great. We get to do ski season in Tahoe." So they could see like the benefits.
Yeah.
Right. We made sure there was something that rewarded them for the sacrifice that they were doing, we were giving.
Right.
And listen, like my kids go knocking doors with me. Well, the little one, let's rephrase that. They go knocking doors with me, right? They could be going to the playground, or they could be going and hanging out with friends, and they chose to go knock doors with me.
But they want to be there.
They do. They want to be with mom, right?
Yeah.
And there's times when I take them to events and they don't like always love that, but they know, but I don't do it too much. They get like, every once in a while, mama's going to ask you to put a suit on and we're going to do this. And you are going to be like polite young gentlemen.
Yeah.
And so they've learned that it's a group effort, but we always make sure their needs are met, and it takes a village. I mean, my mom helps out a ton.
Yeah.
Taking the kids to their after school activities and picking them up from school. So there's a lot of unsung heroes.
Yes.
That managed to make all of this happen.
Well, I have loved having you here today.
Thank you.
Talking about leadership. You have so much to offer and so much to share. We're super excited. Danielle will be one of our speakers for our leadership series this year. And she has a lot to share with all of you. And we're so excited to have her. And just thank you. Thank you for the time that you put in as an assemblywoman. Thank you for everything that you're doing for our industry. I can't say enough. The impact that I know that you've made and that you will continue to make is immensely great. And
thank you.
I have so much gratitude for that. So
I'm happy to do it. I mean, it's a juggling act, as you know.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
You have your kid. I have my dog here. Right.
I know.
We have to make it work. So
we make it work.
Whatever you need, I'm here for you.
Always. Thank you, Danielle.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, guys.